Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the panel. I'm excited about the panel for, I think, really two reasons. First off, we have three CEOs on the panel with me. I have the worst title of anybody on the panel, so I'm a little bit jealous of everybody. But a very entrepreneurial panel. And the other thing is that three of the companies that we have on the panel are UAE-based and are startups in various stages of development. Can I still call you a startup down there, CAFU? Still a startup?
Absolutely. I think we're more at a scale-up level.
Yeah, scale-up, but still, I mean, local homegrown companies in the UAE tackling mobility solutions in different areas. So what I want to do is just give each panel member a chance to introduce themselves, and 1 minute, keep it to a minute, guys. I'm the moderator, I get to do that. But about how what problem you're trying to solve in our goal of a more fleet electrification. I appreciate the presentation from Vitaly, but it really does also show that we are a bit behind here in this region in terms of cleaning up surface transportation. And as a background, I'm from Masdar. We're the sustainability sponsor of this conference, very excited about that. But we've been looking at electric transportation, pioneering electric transportation since 2009. So we've gone through a lot of the ups and downs with it and are excited about where it's been. But each year globally, it's been much slower to adopt than I would have ever anticipated when I joined Masdar in 2009. And regionally, even a little slower. It's great to sit next to all these cars there and see what's finally coming to the market. Tesla needs the competition. They're beautiful, they're there, you can buy them. Highly recommend it, but, or you can come to Masdar and try car sharing with them. But Jaideep, I'm gonna let you go first because you have the best shoes of anyone on the panel. I mean, and that's, you get to pick, when you're the moderator, you get to pick based on whatever you feel like, and it's best shoes, and I think everyone agrees. Jaideep, you look like you run a scooter company.
Okay,
so
I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on this panel. My name is Jaideep Dhanoa. I'm co-founder and CEO of FENIX. We're an Abu Dhabi company, vertically integrated electric mobility platform for passengers and deliveries. We want to give choice for how people can move with different types of vehicles and different business models, starting with e-scooters, e-bikes, e-mopeds, and soon some four-wheel products, and shared vehicles that you rent on a per-trip basis, also subscription vehicles, all connected with public transit so people can choose the right ride for the right time. We are the leaders in the region. We're in 5 countries now, 4 in the Gulf and in Turkey, 13 cities, and very proud to be building a localized service for the community.
And all of your solutions are electric, right?
All electric. So we have light electric vehicles for passengers to move from point A to point B, short distance trips, and also connecting with public transit. We also use the same fleet for delivery services. So we have a quick commerce offering here in Abu Dhabi called FENIX Market. It's in Reem Island, where we deliver convenience groceries in 10 to 15 minutes. We're doing a similar service called FENIX Genie, which is your personal shopper that can go and do local errands at any store, restaurant, cafe, supermarket, pharmacy, but again, using a fully electric fleet, not just to move people, but also small packages and small vehicles.
Great, thank you. Moneef?
My name is Moneef Barakat. I'm the CEO of Solarabic. We're based in Berlin in Germany. We don't work on the supply side of providing electric mobility services or product, but we work on the demand side by raising awareness about electric mobility and helping people to make this decision by making economical comparisons. We report, we have the most visited media outlet in the Middle East for electric mobility and sustainability. And with that, we reach out to the people and we help them to raise their confidence in the technology and help them adopt products and services like the products and services that are offered by many of the friends here on the panel.
And thank you, Sergey.
Yes, hi, I'm Sergey Markov, sometimes called with my Spanish name, Sergio Marquez, not to be confused. I'm co-founder and CEO of GENEC. We, as a company, develop the fast, high-power, fully assisted charging infrastructure We believe that the condition of charging infrastructure is a very important part of this chicken and egg situation. This is acceptance of electric cars. Which comes first? Obviously, both are important, but we believe that time you spend on charging will become increasingly important as the utilization rates of electric vehicles grow. And also the customer experience is equally important. It should be seamless. People don't like changing their habits, so the charging experience should be as similar to the experience you have when you are filling your car with petrol. It should be as similar as possible. That's what we are trying to achieve.
Thank you. Finally, Alaa.
I wanted to start by thanking you for inviting us here. We're very humbled to be sitting in this panel, and it's a real pleasure to be here with Masdar and the organizers. These platforms are very, very important to us, and we appreciate everybody attending. My name is Alaa Huni. I work with CAFU. We started up as a small startup here in the UAE with a vision that I think was a difficult one for a lot of people to take. I guess the easiest way to explain what we do is we try to leverage technology, intelligence, and provide convenience to vehicle owners and vehicle operators. So anything from private owners of vehicles to even fleets and company owners as well. We started off with energy on demand being provided in the form of fuel, but from there we've expanded extensively into other products and services. And we're very cognizant and are investing into the development of EV infrastructure. And we believe that a smart, intelligent infrastructure can work, that can be mobile, dynamic, modular, and grow with the growth of EV adoption in itself. So very similar model to what we're applying right now.
So I'm going to keep it down at that end of the panel, because we've got two different companies that are focused on how do we make it easier for people to charge with two different solutions, much like, well, Sergey, your solution is based on the idea that, and I think a logical one, that people will charge their electric vehicle in the same way they buy gas for their internal combustion vehicle now. And Alaa, your premise is based on the idea that, hey, people don't like going to the gas station, and that they shouldn't have to go to the gas station. The gas station should come to them, and that the EV charging network should, when they transition to EVs, it should work in the same way. By the way, I think, as you've shown, there's room for both in this country with traditional gas cars. That you have not eliminated the gas station yet, Alaa.
No. And we don't have the aspiration to completely eliminate. We believe we're a good complementer. And for EV infrastructure in particular, I think we would complement each other between, as he was alluding to, people charging at home, people going to specific destinations, and those that require the charger to come to them. And I think with most things in life, there is several different products and services to cater to the same thing from a client's perspective. You might want McDonald's one day, you might want to go to a restaurant, you might want to order delivery. All of these is feeding an individual in very, very different ways based on those specific needs. So I believe there's plenty of room for us all to be together.
Sergey, when you set up these gas stations, I mean, I think we talked yesterday a bit on one of the panels about the standardization of the charging infrastructure. How important, and being able to plug into almost any, when you have an electric vehicle, to be plugged into any standard charger. How important will that be for you? And do you see this as right now, most of the fast charging vehicles are Tesla, but Audi and Mercedes also have, as you can see here, fast charging vehicles. Porsche obviously has a fast charging vehicle. The high-end ones have all incorporated this to their. Is it standard enough to work on a single charging station, or how would you work with that model?
Well, of course, it is very inconvenient that there are different charging systems, and Tesla, with all its financial power, would like to dominate, and their charging stations really are focused on charging only Tesla cars. But they are already going away from this concept. There's a lot of Tesla superchargers that are open for other vehicles as well. 90% of the vehicles of this country, of electric vehicles in this country now are Teslas, but look at all these cars. Other models are coming. So it is not up to us to work on the standardization. This is probably more kind of government regulation should interfere. Right now, we feel it's an inconvenience, which is relatively easy to overcome because it's just, you get feeder cables of different formats and that's it. You don't have to use a lot of different systems. So for us, it's not a major impediment, but it's a hassle for the users. So that has to go away. That has to be standardized.
And standardization of all electronic equipment, or starting with batteries of a single size that you manufacture to a battery, and finally we're going to get away from I think Europe is going to drive us to get away from the iPhone versus Android, and make everybody come up with a standard charger for their cell phone as well too, which I think would be great. But this would be really important for the adoption of, for the ease of charging across systems. I'm going to go back to Jaideep here, and then as the last UAE company here. You also are heavily impacted by the regulatory environment globally, and I think your industry is well known for moving fast and breaking things early on, and I think that your industry has matured quite a bit over the past. You're in an industry that's only 7 or 8 years old, yet it's something we've all seen, we can all relate to, many of us have used. What do you see as the regulatory requirements for helping you to really become a transportation solution? Because as you are in some other countries, but right now I think you're still mostly heavily tourist-based or heavily fund-based in the UAE. How do you, what do you see as needing to be updated there to be really that last mile solution?
Yeah, great question. So we start with first principles, right? And there's a lot of alignment on those first principles between transport ministries, operators, and various other stakeholders, right? When we look at mobility, right, mobility is an enabler for opportunity. It gets people to work, to school, to the mall, to home. And when there's friction to move, right, and that friction could be financial cost, it could be time, it could be convenience, it could be commitment, right? Those are hurdles to those opportunities. So how can we reduce the friction so people can move more and do more, right? And effectively increase quality of living, increase economic activity, increase local commerce, right? And so those are the first principles we start with, in driving an efficient multimodal transportation network in our cities where more and more people are moving into. Now, the most efficient way to move people is public transit. Squeeze everyone into a bus or a train, and in the same amount of space, you can move 25 times more people than in a car lane. The challenge is, how do you make that accessible and convenient so that people opt for public transport as opposed to private cars? That's where micromobility or smaller vehicles can fit in to get you as a feeder to the public transit system and get you off, so it becomes very, very useful. Right, so that's the basic premise of what we convey to our partners, our city partners, right? And I think from first principles, there's a lot of alignment and buy-in. The challenge is, like, how do we do it, given that cities haven't been built for these smaller vehicles. They've been built for private cars. There's a monopoly on our cities. 30% of our space is dedicated to private cars, and 70% is for everything else, right? And it's an iterative process. I think we are actually moving very rapidly when we look at atoms and not bits, right? We're not just a digital service, we are a real world service, and cities have actually been adapting and incorporating these solutions all over the world at exceptional speed. When you look at a city timeline, I think in just the last 3 years, we've been bringing micromobility to the region, right? So we have a lot of confidence that we're seeing impact demonstrated through results, and these services are just expanding. Even here in Abu Dhabi now, right, the Integrated Transport Center has been, they were the pioneer in introducing shared micromobility to the region, right? They actually put it on pause for the past year and a bit as they look to formalize it away from a pilot program to a long-term permanent program with formal regulations and long-term contracts. And so we're seeing the progress in a very meaningful way all over the region.
Moneef now is the one outsider, the one person who doesn't live here in the UAE. As you're coming in, and you're not primarily focused on the UAE. You're looking at a more at a wider role, and I think there's a certain role for government here. And in the region, we've seen the push. In global, we've seen the push toward renewable energy, and the UAE and I have to say for the marketing department, my company Masdar has been a real leader in renewable energy and what we've seen in terms of setting world record pricing and getting past the point where it wasn't economic. And I think the last presentation Vitaly mentioned, we're not quite at the point where it's economic to buy an electric vehicle yet. What can be done, and what have you seen that is successful in helping to push that transition? Because I think we're still a few years out, at least 3 to 5 years, where we need that government push, not just here, but globally, everywhere except for Norway, which the government pushed much harder, but to make that happen, make that a reality.
Thank you for the good question. Actually, it's very important. Like, whenever you start with a new technology, you start with a huge amount of uncertainty. This uncertainty could be at a certain level prohibitive to take a decision and to make the decision and buy an electric vehicle. And here comes the role of regulators to ease the pain and to provide guarantees and comfort for the consumers to move into it. It's always supply and demand. So if you look to that side, there's plenty of supply. There are like tens of cars in here. They're all available and you can go and purchase immediately. But why don't you buy it? That's something that has been studied a lot and has to be studied in order to make this decision easier. Firstly, we need to look into our current regulations. For instance, in many countries in the GCC, if you run out of fuel on the way to your home, you get fined. Yeah? And with electric mobility, you automatically have that range anxiety. And when you have such rules which could apply to that situation, then this anxiety gets multiplied. Yeah? Then we need to look into these details to make this more comfortable. Next question, next topic is, for instance, what Vitaly mentioned in his presentation before half an hour. Vitaly has been talking about the I just missed the thought, sorry, while I've been referring to this. But he has been talking about the importance of better facilitation. I'm sorry for that, but I ran out of, the thought ran away from me. But definitely it is important that we also look into the residual, he was talking about the residual value of the car. That's something that I think also regulators can help with by, let's say, working with suppliers, putting regulations to help them guarantee their products. So we don't buy an electric car and then the battery degrades faster than what is in there on the data sheet, and then the consumer is unprotected. Such things would help us piece by piece to ease these fears and help the consumers to make a better decision and an easier one in order to move towards electric mobility. The last part that what I want to mention is that we need to also look to the local energy mix. And we see a lot of investment in hydrogen. Yeah? This means this region might not adopt electric mobility as as battery electric vehicles only, but hydrogen cars as well. So there is a huge investment from Masdar, from many energy players in the region, and this means that there will be supply of hydrogen, and this supply of hydrogen would, I think, provide a very nice ecosystem for hydrogen cars to be adopted in the region, probably much faster than battery electric vehicles as well.
Stephen, may I add to this?
Are you going to add hydrogen to your station, Sergey?
No, not on hydrogen. Regarding the regulations, we are always talking about incentives that the governments must provide. It's equally important to remove hurdles. And there are in a lot of countries in the MENA region and here in the UAE as well, there are regulations prohibiting or making it difficult for a commercial company to sell electricity to end users, to the owners of electric vehicles. while of course the government have a reason to preserve, the monopoly on the energy generation and distribution, and also the grid has great interest, but they must also understand that it comes in conflict with the private investment going into the charging infrastructure. Without this, nothing will happen. You should have much more freedom in your relationship with the grid. So it's not a question of on-grid or off-grid. It's typically will be a combination of both. For this, what Masdar is doing in terms of renewable energy is extremely important. Every time you generate energy from renewable sources and you sell it to the grid, you lose something because there are certain inefficiencies and there's a certain administrative cost attached to the grid. Equally, when you are buying from the grid, the same thing happens. So it's very important to have distributed generation, to have solar panels right there and solar energy generated on site and sell it directly to the owner of the electric vehicle. This is at the heart of our concept, and we hope you will support us.
We're always supportive, Sergey. Yeah, and to be completely open, we're actually talking with Sergey right now about how to help make that happen at Masdar City. It's a small world here. Jaideep and I have known each other for years on this in his business, and Sergey and I have worked together as well too. But that's in the electrification push here, or the push for clean. And I like that Moneef, you brought up hydrogen, and I think there's absolutely a role. There are things that batteries don't do well. And there are things that hydrogen does better, but you have clearly the chicken and egg scenario around hydrogen filling stations for personal travel. For fleet, I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Less so for personal travel in the current situation.
Because for fleets, what is also relevant is the predictability of the fuel in the future.
Yes.
And this affects a lot the economics of businesses that rely heavily on their fleets. And when we are a hydrogen hub and with predictable hydrogen prices in the future, then definitely that's very important for fleet owners, and this will help them a lot to convert their fleets much earlier than, let's say, private consumers would do.
I'd like to take it back. I'd like to actually, because one thing you mentioned, Jaideep, is atoms, not bits. I want to go into the bit world for a second with the three of you, because I think especially as you're traveling, as you're getting around to new places, as you want to experience some of the new forms of transportation, whether that's car sharing, whether that's micromobility at the end of the metro, whether that's a new metro station, whether that's using a different charging system that you've used for your electric vehicle before, or getting CAFU to your car. Every single one of them requires their own app, their own upload, their own entering in your credit card number, their own, if you change your credit card, it means you need to go into 37 new apps, update your credit card. This can be kind of overwhelming for anybody who's new to this. What are some of the things that we could do to make this a more seamless entry experience for the user, for all of us who, you're sitting there next to one of your scooters in the sun going, oh, which one's this one? Okay, I'm downloading a new app to use something new. For the three of you who will be, I think, all have apps, and all of us will require to have those. What can we do to make this more seamless?
If I could start off, I think you hit the nail on the head that there's no one product that's going to solve all mobility for everyone, right? Rather, it's a range of products. We need to give consumers choice. We want to become more clean, more sustainable. Like, in fact, we should be trying to move away from private car ownership to more shared vehicles and multimodal mobility. And that's what we're trying, that's our aspiration at FENIX. We're building an integrated platform that gives consumers choice. Shared vehicles, scooters, bikes, four wheels, subscription vehicles when you need a dedicated vehicle for more active rides, hailed vehicles, and all integrated with public transit. So based on this ride, what is the best option for you? And the core considerations are actually universal globally when it comes to mobility. It's affordability, it's convenience, it's experience. So many times, I've got kids, I need a car. Scooter's not going to cut it. I can't force them to all get on the scooter, right? So what are my car options? Is it taking the shared car down the street? Is it subscribing to my personal car? Is it hailing a car? Sometimes, you know, it's like Friday night, I'm going out, and maybe my first option was a hailed car, but it's surge, it's too expensive. So now I've got alternatives because that consideration is getting eclipsed by affordability, and maybe I want to scoot to the metro to get to my destination, right? So that's our ambition. We've got a lot of the pieces already live in our platform. When it comes to making multiple providers, I think, conveniently accessible, which was part of your question, right? That may come down to the city driving some sort of standards, interoperability standards, or a unified mass application. But that's generally not where their core competency lies in technology. So we've not really seen it. I think operators who have the multimodal vision have seen more success. In Europe, Bolt is an example, where they, with one app, they have scooters, bikes, ride-hail, and it's making their offering more compelling to consumers. Yandex has been doing this in Russia, and I think we'll be seeing more of that going forward, integrated mobility operators.
So you might be able to book, I jumped out of my apartment, I see a scooter, I'm on it, but I want to book it all the way to the metro and then have the metro ticket on the same sort of pass where I just wave that. So I wave the app at the metro station at.
Yeah, exactly. And when we take like mobility is also very localized. It's a city by city problem, right? Like no one cares here in Abu Dhabi, you know, how many scooters you have in San Francisco, because you're not going to use those scooters here in Abu Dhabi, right? And so we also integrate payments, localized payments, right? Not just credit card and debit card, which, you know, maybe the top quartile is using. But if you want to drive affordable products, you need to be more inclusive with how people can pay. And so public transit card integration is a huge channel for us, which we're adding in Dubai and in Istanbul, and hopefully here in Abu Dhabi, that you can get off the metro, tap and unlock your scooter or e-bike or what have you, and have an integrated subsidized fare because you are using this for commuting, not for leisure or entertainment.
Right, and I think I want to go back to, we got a couple of charging questions. You know, we'll talk about that, and particularly Alaa, ask you because, I'm also a customer of CAFU, so I will tell you that I love their service. It's a fantastic service, but even in delivering to traditional cars, you have an apartment problem. You can't deliver it to me when I'm in my apartment. You can't come into the garage. And I know you're working on a solution for that. But talk about, you have technology issues that are more difficult to overcome with electric vehicles. And where do you see your primary delivery area? Is it at people's homes when they need a fast charge and their slow charger's not enough? Is it at people, you know, kind of, oh, I have range anxiety, so I want you to come to my friend's apartment and get it for a while before I drive back. You know, I'm at the barbecue at my friend's house. Where do you see your the gap that you're filling? Because most people would rather fill at the office or at home. I just, you know, slow charger stick in there. Yeah.
So, to be honest, all we see is opportunity around us. When we were talking about car sharing platforms, we already have use cases that are operational today, where their systems automatically communicate with ours. If the fuel level sensor hits a specific level, an order is automatically made without a single person, human being having to intervene. And we go and we fill it up. And with EV, we are already speaking to the major OEMs about integration. We already get access to that data, and we know exactly when that vehicle needs to be charged. We are in an era of intelligence. I know that here in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, over $50 billion is being invested in smart cities, right? And the reason we're investing in this is because we're allowing to take advantage of IoT enablement, of smart technologies, of algorithms being able to figure things out for us. So what we do have, and this is operational now today, is for the car sharing platforms, we fill those up without a single order being made. And the same would apply with the EV. The second the gauge hits a specific level, the order is made. Nobody has to physically go and place an order. Why? Us as human beings, we should have as frictionless and as smooth of an experience as possible. So I think even alluding to your question of what can we do to make it better for us as the citizens or the users of this mobility services, I think technology exists. Technology exists for payments. Technology exists to recognize us. Technology exists. All we have to do is have a bit more of an ecosystem play where we partner with you, we partner with the government, we work with the regulators, and we all work together to provide the best solution for the consumers. And I think it's really the consumers who are going to drive the change more than anybody else, and that's what we care about. We believe our solution is very, very, very close to the consumer. It's where most of our focus is. We talk to our consumers 2, 3, 4 times a week, 4, 5, 6 times a month. And it's the most important thing in our perspective. And then we want to partner with everybody else that we can to make sure that the most seamless solution is provided to them.
But by the way, I mean, and I think if we look at how far we've come with a service like CAFU, that how many years ago did you start?
We started in October 2018, so we haven't closed 4 years.
So you haven't closed 4 years. And this is, I think, I don't know globally, but one of the first places on earth where you can do this, where you can get to your home, realize, oh, I'm a bit low, look at the gauge, I'm a bit low on gas, press the button, say, CAFU, please come here in the next hour. And then in the next hour, your tank is filled up. You don't have to wait in line. I mean, I understand the rest of it. We're in electric vehicles, but it was still shocking to me how long I had to wait in line when I moved here for gas at the wrong time of the day. So this takes care of it. But now you've moved on using artificial intelligence. So with the car sharing services, you don't have to look at the thing and call CAFU. CAFU just shows up.
Absolutely.
CAFU just shows up. I guess it also takes it off the app so that people can't see it there.
So what happens is their system, the second fuel level sensor hits a specific level, that vehicle goes offline, an order gets placed, comes through our routing algorithm, our truck gets dispatched. Our drivers have control functionality with the vehicles themselves. We have several use cases where we have integration with vehicles. So we have that today with Ford, with Toyota, and with a third-party car sharing platform that has their own OBD devices. And then we're able to unlock the vehicle, fill it up, and walk away. And the second the transaction is done, that vehicle goes back online. But the same can apply for you as an individual consumer as well. So imagine opting into a service and never having to think about charging again. This anxiety that everybody's talking to can be resolved easily with technology. Now, what might be something to look at is how do you make it cost efficient? How do you ensure that across the entire supply chain it makes sense? Look, charging is the last point. We also have to take into account how the grid is going to be able to account for it and where that source of energy is coming from. And we want to partner with everybody we can across that entire vertical to ensure that it is designed in a way that meets the customer's need. We understand that people are looking for green, renewable energy, and this matters. It matters to us, it matters to the consumers. We do also understand that adoption might be very, very quick, and are the grids able to do it? We want to partner with the utility companies to make sure how much percentage has to be on the grid, how much percentage has to be off the grid, and how do we provide it? But I think the solutions are there, they're easy. All we have to do is leverage what's in our hands today in order to provide it. Jaideep,
I want to go back to you because I think one of the, in the micromobility industry, and whether that is the scooter, the e-bike, or the electric scooter, not so yet in the four-wheeled vehicle, but you've come a long way from, okay, we're going to go pick up all the scooters, take them at one point and charge them, to we're going to swap batteries. Much more in the, okay, we don't have to charge these for however long you have to. I mean, I personally own a scooter. I like scooters so much I bought one. It's so much fun I own it. So, but yeah, mine charges. I plug it into the wall. It takes 4 or 5 hours. Then it runs for quite a long time. But you're moving to a point where you're just boom, boom, quick as filling up a tank of gas. And that with a standard battery across all platforms, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're learning as we go, right? And this is a nascent vehicle category. And the earlier versions actually were taken from like retail, from like toys, right? And they had an inbuilt battery. And actually, although the vehicle was electric, right, the ops was, creating a lot of emissions because you needed these massive trucks and a lot of labor to carry the vehicles back to a massive warehouse where you were charging it and then bringing it back. And so we've been looking at how we can become more efficient, of course, financially more cost efficient and better for the business, but also more sustainable from an operation standpoint. So we use actually cargo electric mopeds, custom built for battery swap operations. And of course, it's still not as efficient as we would like, but it is a fully electric process. And of course, also ensures that the vehicles are always online, available to the customers. They're not offline in some warehouse outside the city.
In a large parking structure at Masdar, being charged with renewable energy.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Yeah.
In some cases.
And one interesting wrinkle that we've added is co-locating our charging infra with what we call a dark store, which is like a cloud kitchen, where we stock our own inventory of convenience goods. And so the same team that is now swapping batteries is also completing deliveries in batch tasks on light electric vehicles, right? So now we can do multiple activities on the same route and, of course, sustainably.
It's fantastic. So I want to give, before I want to open this up to the crowd, to the audience for just a bit, but I want to give each panelist a magic wand, because I can do that as the moderator. I can give you a magic wand. I've got powers you can't imagine. So in the magic wand, one regulatory change that you'd like to see, and it can be focused on something here or a little wider globally, and one technology improvement you'd like to see that you think, okay, this would push us to really, this would push us over the edge. Both these things could be significant. And Moneef, because your role in really studying the industry, I want you to go first here. I'll give the other guys a chance to think, but I'm putting you on the spot.
I'd love to. Thanks. With the magic wand, probably I would like to ask the government to support this industry because it's a new industry and it's a new technology, and definitely more interference is needed, because we should not compare an electric vehicle to a regular ICE vehicle by direct costs. We need to look to externality as well, because let's say regular cars cause pollution, and polluted air in cities cause sickness, and this sickness costs people money, costs insurance companies money, and the government as well. So when we as individuals, it is difficult for us to get into such super sophisticated and complicated calculations. It is what governments can do, and enter this into the equation to provide the right amount of subsidy or tax benefit for electric mobility and help to foster the adoption of electric mobility in the region. So that's for my wish. And the second question?
The second one is one technology, your magic technology wand.
For me, it's better batteries. Today we use lithium-ion batteries, which are limited in capacity, which are not very much environmentally friendly. That's something that can be improved. So I hope that we see better technologies of batteries that have much longer life cycles. We are talking today about 5,000 cycles. I hope that we see technologies with 20,000 cycles, and technologies that will help cars to drive not just 500 kilometers per charge, but probably 2,000 kilometers per charge. And this would be definitely a game changer. And I think with technologies like ultra capacitors, among others, we can reach that in an economically feasible manner within the coming 10 years, and we see EVs that's actually much better range-wise compared to regular ICE cars.
I'm going to go back to Sergey. Sergey,
well, with a magic wand, I would ask the governments to remove the unnecessary regulatory hurdles that, as I mentioned, prevent currently the selling by private companies to individuals. And the other thing I would do, I would ask the governments to be more intelligent about the way they subsidize the acceptance or incentivize the acceptance of electric vehicles. Currently, in the UAE and several other countries, they started giving out electricity for free. And actually, I think that this is a clever way of encouraging. Maybe at the very first step, it is. But think about the wealthy owners of expensive electric vehicles being subsidized at the cost of everyone else, because that has to be somewhere in the tariff, you know, this subsidy. Plus, this giving out electricity for free hinders the development of private companies in this sector that have to compete with a free service provided by the government. That's very unfair to the consumers, to the taxpayers, and to the private sector. Now, in terms of the technology, I join my colleague in using this magic wand to improve the battery technology. Currently, most of the cars cannot take charge at more than maybe 90 kilowatt power. The new models we are seeing here are 200, 270 kilowatts. That has to be increased even further, because time of charging is a major factor. When you charge fast, you should have the batteries that, first of all, are not damaged by fast charging, that are capable of taking a fast charge, and especially as we are moving towards longer range, larger capacity of the battery, trucks, lorries that will require huge capacity, and therefore very fast charging. Yeah. So the battery technology is, of course, at the core of it, and the ability to charge fast is very important. And third, I think, well, of course, CAFU and other panelists are describing very beautiful future with the IoT and the intelligent, management of when you get low on your charge, it automatically calls a refueling or recharging service. This is great, but we should bear in mind that realistically different people move towards that future at a different speed. And there's still a lot of people who prefer paying cash rather than having multiple apps on their smartphones. For those who accept smartphones, of course, fintech, and that's another maybe technology thing, fintech will come up with the solutions of integrating those multiple apps, like we had, I don't know, every airline selling its own ticket, then we have Expedia or Skyscanner that is integrating this. The same will happen here. We don't have to do much for this, but still many people are using cash, and therefore at our charging stations, they are assisted. That's very important. We also can take cash and payment. This is for those people who are not moving towards the future at the same rate as everybody in this hall.
Well, look, I think both of you brought up, I think, inclusivity in terms of payments for these things for people who are not using credit cards or debit cards. I mean, even for me, Apple Pay linking across apps makes it easier, so I don't have to link everything to, I don't put my credit card in to everyone. But I've still got a couple more magic wands out here. So, Alaa?
So from a regulatory perspective, I think regulation is important. It protects citizens. That's why it's there, right? Regulators are here to protect us as citizens of a country, and they're meant to. So as opposed to have one primary thing that I'd request from regulators, it's more maybe a mindset shift that I'd push for. I think technologies are always changing. Every little bit of time, something new is going to be discovered and created that they've never regulated before. From my perspective, it's just a mindset. I have a colleague here that's used this terminology, and it's not regulating the digital or regulating technology. It's regulating during the digital era. regulating during the technological era. And it's just a mindset shift that we should be partners in the way we do so and be able to develop it together, as opposed to have one regulation that they could change. Because I think we could change this one today, and then in X amount of time, there will be a new discovery or a new way of doing something. And again, we're going to face that blockage. So I think from a regulatory perspective, the one thing I would wish is that they understand that it's not regulating this, it's during an era where technology is changing so much. And then magic wand, I am something magical that could change. I wish all energy sources were green, renewable energy sources. I don't know how we could do this. I have a baby daughter. I have another baby daughter on her way. There's a long future ahead of them, and if I had a magic wand, I wish that you know, they had a bright, pollution-free future for them. So maybe it would be that all energy sources are green. I don't know anything better than that to say. You know.
Also, world peace, Alaa. World peace.
No, I don't know. I'm not that naive.
Jaideep, we'll finish the question with you.
Okay, thank you. My own perspective, I feel like the whole electrification focus is kind of on the 20th century archetype around private vehicles. And that's where a lot of the attention is. Right? I think what a lot of consumers have recognized now is that, you know, EVs offer superior performance to ICE vehicles. Right? There is actually a shortage of EVs. There's far insufficient supply, especially around the batteries, to enable the replacement cycle of all the ICE vehicles in the market. So from a regulatory standpoint, I think we need to understand these constraints, right? Instead of trying to subsidize premium vehicles for the highest income consumers, right? We need to shift the focus to let's drive multimodal shared fleets in our cities. That's where the incentive should be. The private car should actually be, you know, should have the stick disincentives either on purchasing or driving them in the cities with less parking and higher tolls. And what we need to electrify first are the public fleets. So bus, public transit, taxis, right? Those dedicated fleets can be paired with dedicated charging infra so that the infrastructure works in a way that is much harder to solve for individual consumers. Right? So I think that's where the mindset shift needs to happen from a regulatory standpoint. Drive electrification of public fleets and incentivize shared multimodal services over private vehicles. Magic bullet, I think these guys already shared some great ideas. I mean, battery technology or new fuel solutions can really be a game changer for the industry.
Okay, so my regulatory one, I'm going to cheat a little bit. Abu Dhabi, build the metro. Abu Dhabi, it's been very successful in Dubai. I'd love to see it in Abu Dhabi, particularly because there is a stop at Masdar City, and it's so vital to our transportation strategy. We're getting people in and out on the metro. I think, and being right next to the airport would be amazing. And a technology, I'm going to step outside the electric side and go to an area that we are not going to talk about today, but is the third, you know, kind of the third bullet point in everybody's transportation future. You know, electric, shared, and autonomous. I'd love to get those guys to just wave that magic wand and go from level 3.5 to level 5. Because that, you know, 99.9% isn't quite there. And they're not quite there, but they're getting closer and closer and closer. I'd love to kick them into level 5 now. From the audience though, any questions from you to any of our panelists? No, then I'll thank you for your participation, to the panelists and to the audience here, and wrap up just a couple minutes early, but with no questions. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you to the organizers at EVIS, the very first electric vehicle summit in the Middle East and for everyone who's come out to help make this a success.